Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to install the Garmin Force electronic trolling motor. This is an absolute gem. It's worth the money. It is compatible with the Garmin UHD 93 fish finder. And basically this is going to allow us to do autopilot as well as auto launching or even spot lock. So we're going to jump right into the installation and show you how to get it all set up. Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to mount the Force's main bracket to the bow of the boat. We want to kind of hold up the motor and kind of transpire how the motor is going to come over the bow, how it's going to lay back when it's in the up position, and make sure that your anchor line is free, the motor can drop down the front where you want it, out of the way of the door, not impeding the visual view of the driver. Those are just a couple of things that you're going to want to think about before you mount this bracket. Put it in place where we were going to want it. I just barely tapped it down so that we have markers for all 7 of our screw positions right here. So you can see I've got my screw positions marked out. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill these holes and we're going to actually mount the bracket. One of the important things that came in the kit is a safety strap for when this is all set together to strap down that motor and make sure that it doesn't bounce around. The strap is going to go underneath of the mounting bracket. It's going to place in between these 4 that are in a very square pattern. Make sure that we've got the strap underneath of it beforehand. Now we're going to take the mount, we're going to place it in position here. Then we're just going to pull back the top shock, pull this cable so that we can release this back. And then we have a lower shock that we're going to have to move out of the way so we can see our holes here and we can get our bolts inside of it. We've got the bolt holes in there and we're just going to line those up and drop the bolts down inside of them. The assembly here is bolt on the top. Make sure that the washer is going to go underneath and then the locking nut underneath of that. So we're just going to start dropping some bolts in here. Now we've got all the bolts in. It's the assembly of the washer and locking nuts. Now we're going to install the lower shock section. We just want to make sure that this bracket, it's got a hole right here for this guy. We want to make sure that that drops right into there, just like that. And then we've got 2 screws, and then we're just going to tighten those up. Once we've got the lower shock on, then we're just going to pull this cable, release it, slide this forward. When it gets to this vertical position right here, that shock, you're going to have to compress that shock down and push it down into the locking position. The upper shock, which is going to be just like the lower shock, we've got our little groove and we've got the wire cable right here. We want to make sure to get it inside there and then drop our screws in. So now that we've got the bracket mounted where we want it, we're going to actually take the trolling motor and we're going to bring the trolling motor up here, but there's a couple of things that we want to be really mindful of before we get too crazy. So we've got this the pull string so that you can release it, and we just want to make sure that that is inside this groove right here in the middle, and then we just kind of want to place this up on top out of the way. This is going to actually slip up inside of a little hole in the trolling motor right here, so we just want to be mindful of that. Another thing that we want to be mindful of is this cable that's coming out of that. This is going to come right up inside here and it's going to connect. So all these things are kind of going to happen all at once, and this is going to require more than one person, because one person's going to have to hold the motor, make sure you're going to have a second person to make sure this stuff is where it needs to be, as well as placing the pins, the pivotal pins inside of it that actually lock the motor into place. We're gonna worry about getting the lower pivotal arm in first, and then we will get the upper pivotal arm. We're gonna make sure that these power cables are up out of the way. We take that pole cable, back it up a little bit, Chris. We have to make sure to get that girl up and inside this slot, just like that. And then the pivotal arm right here, Garmin made certain that you do not use a hammer when you are putting this in. It's got to be by hand. It can be a little stiff, but just like that right there. So now we've got the pivotal arm on the bottom installed. We're gonna get this electronic cable. This needs to be installed right underneath here. You guys can see. So it does have it's a pin connector, and it does screw in. I'm gonna find the right slot because it does only fit in one way. It has a groove on the top of it, so you can't plug it in the wrong way. There, got it. And then we're gonna screw it on. Absolutely essential making sure that these two cables, this pole cable and this electronic cable, are proper, because if you don't get this right, you're gonna have to pull this pivotal bar out and you're gonna have to take the motor off. So now we can rock this forward to the upper pivotal cable. That guy's got a thread on both sides and screws that came with it. So it's just gonna slide right in there. There it is. I can see where I would want to use a hammer on this, to be totally honest, but Garmin recommended no hammer usage.
Nope, there you go.
So now that we got her in there, comes with 2 screws and 2 washers. Make sure that the washer is on the screw and one goes on each side. And then I'm just gonna get my wrench to cinch that down. Give this a little tighten. Doesn't really look like it'll let you over tighten because the pivotal bar starts spinning. There you have it. Handle to our manual lift cable. This just allows us to pull and the trolling motor lifts and comes up. So we're gonna go ahead and attach that onto there, and it's really rather simple. We're going to run the bottom in, then we're going to run the washer, and then we put in our carter pin to stop our washer from going anywhere. Sink that carter pin down inside there. Put the top half of the handle on, and it's got 2 screws to just hold the whole assembly together. And there you go, just like that. Now you can pull this handle to lift the motor up and down. One of the last things that we need to do is we're going to take the power cable and the transducer cable, and we're going to run them through this top assembly right through here in the side. So we'll run that transducer down, pull her through, power cable, we'll run her down and through. And then we've got 2 brackets, one that goes here and one that goes here, to pin those cables in place. Notice that the bracket has the larger diameter and the smaller diameter. So that's going to be for our transducer and for our main power cable. See, one part goes over the transducer cable and one part over the power cable. 2 little Allen wrench style screws, gently. We don't want to make these super tight. There we go. All right, so this is an optional accessory that comes with it. This is a stabilization bar. Basically, this is going to bolt onto the side of this. This bar is going to go down and it's going to rest against the floor, and it's just going to kind of stop this whole assembly from bouncing up and down. We're going to use this for our install because this is most certainly, this is going to be useful for us. So the bracket, notice that it has this guy hanging over. You don't want that piece hanging over towards the trolling motor. It goes up towards the end of the boat. And then the bracket is only going to bracket into 3 locations, not 4. I know that there's 4 holes in this. That is so it's universal, and you could put it on this side if you wanted to. The bolts come with a washer, so we want to make sure to put the washer on. Don't want it too tight. All right, now that we've got it bolted on nice and tight, we've tightened it with our wrench. Now we're just going to take our bar. There is one rubber grommet that's just flat. There's another rubber grommet that has a little groove inside of it. You want to make sure that the groove part is facing up because that's going to be for our handle. So I'm just going to slide this guy down in here. Once I slide it in, I'm going to put the rubber grommet on the bottom so that it protects it against the floor. And then we've got a couple of set screws that go in this side right here. Not too tight, but we are trying to grab this bar and make it not go anywhere. Take our handle, and we can just slide our handle right inside there from in the boat position coming out to grab that handle. Now we just need to run the power cable and transducer cable to our battery and to our Garmin EchoMap 93SV. Okay, so now we're going to install the prop. We're just going to pull that guy off. We have a slated groove right here. Here's all the assembly parts that it came with. We've got this little pin. Obviously that little pin is going to stop the trolling motor from being able to move anywhere. So that pin drops right down inside here. Then we're going to slide this on here and make sure that it fits inside that groove and grabs it. And then the assembly of all these parts that came with it, here's going to be the easiest way to remember. They're going to go in order from biggest to smallest. So we've got this guy right here. Notice that this side is completely flat and smooth. This side has a convex. So that convex needs to be facing out. So it's going to go in there first, biggest piece. Then the next larger piece, which is a washer, slips right in there. Then we have a lock washer that goes right in there. And finally, we have our nut. We're getting ready to run the power cable and the transducer cable, so we're gonna drill a hole into the sidewall right here. Got it. All right, so now that we've got the cable ran all the way up here to the console, to the Garmin, we have to unplug the current transducer because the Garmin Force has a transducer built into it. So we're going to be using that transducer. And it came with this little cable that just clips on like so. And then that allows us, when we plug it into the console, we can screw this in. And that just ensures that it is not going to pull out of there or get ruined. So now that we have the transducer, an electronic cable ran to the console, now we need to run our power cables through and down to our battery. We've hooked this up on a 36 volt system, and that should work pretty well. So now that we've got our cables ran, we just need to put some battery terminals on the end of them so we can hook it up to the battery. Before I do that though, so I can hook it all up to the battery at the same time, we've got the Garmin foot pedal that came with the unit, and all I did was just simply plug it in, and I ran the cable in its little cable holster right here. And then on the other end, I just added the proper terminals so that I can attach them to the battery. And then we're also going to put a voltage meter on the battery, so I just went ahead and I put the terminals on that guy too. So you can kind of see what I'm saying here, just getting all these terminals ready so that I can just put them all on the battery all at the same time. And there you go, just a little bit of wires coming out to the battery, and we're all set. All right guys, now that we're out here on the lake, the first thing that we're going to do is just put some batteries into our remote control, get it fired up, and then we're going to hit the 3-line button, and we're going to want to go down to the settings. And in the settings, we're going to go to the remote control. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to calibrate the remote control. Now, I already calibrated this remote control. It's going to tell you what to do. It's going to make you spin it in different ways and just calibrate the remote control. Once you're done with that, you're going to go back into your settings. You're going to go down to the remote control again, and you're going to go all the way down to pairing. All right. Now you're going to tell it to pair and start the pairing. And then on your trolling motor, the power button, you're going to press 3 times. It's going to start to load, and the pairing is going to be complete. We have to do a couple of calibrations to the actual trolling motor itself now that we've got the remote calibrated. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to calibrate its direction. We're going to make sure that it knows with the arrow that's facing on here what the straight direction with the keel of the boat is. So we're going to go to the 3 lines, go all the way down to settings. We're going to go to trolling motor, and then we are going to go to calibrate. And first we're going to choose the bow offset. So it wants to make sure that we are straight and in line, which we currently are. We could move it with our foot pedal if we needed to move it, but it's currently straight. So then I'm going to press down to set. So that's ready to go. And now we need to do the compass. So we're going to go to the settings. We're going to go to the trolling motor. We're going to go down to calibrate.
Can't see it.
And we're going to calibrate the compass. Now it wants us to turn the boat. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our foot pedal. I've already got my foot pedal to where it has got the motor turned 90 degrees. And then I'm just going to kick it on in a slow speed. She's going to start rotating. And as you can see, as I'm rotating around, it's going to begin to calibrate. As it runs all the way to 100%, then you're going to be all set, and the compass is going to be completely calibrated. So now we're just going to ensure that the anchor lock now works. So we've got our GPS right here, and we can, see that we're still kind of drifting off. We can see that our GPS heading over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the anchor. The motor engaged up there, and we should stay within our anchor range. I can tell that it's pitching us around and keeping us in this spot. So the anchor lock is most certainly working. Now, one thing that you can do, you can go in the settings and you can change the level of thrust on the motor when it's moving around in order to stay in this anchor position. You could up the gain because maybe the wind's pushing you around, maybe you're in some ocean swells, something like that. Today it's not real windy, so we don't need the motor to really push very hard to keep us locked into one location, but that is something that you can do. So the last thing we're going to do is we're not going to choose a waypoint on the chart just yet, but we are going to do a heading control. So I'm going to get the motor going. I'm just controlling her here with the trolling motor. We forgot our bait back at the car, so we got to go get the bait, as silly as that sounds. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to point myself towards the boat ramp over here, and I'm going to lock in the heading, and we're just going to enjoy this thing taking us there for a minute and test that feature. So once I get it aimed there, then the only thing I got to do is click this button right here. It's got like a bow with an arrow. I'm going to press that, and now the heading should be locked, and the trolling motor should continue to just go completely straight. I can see my speed right now is at 2.6 miles an hour. So I could definitely bump down the prop speed. Looks like these guys are trying to actually catch a kokanee back here. And you can't catch kokanee at 2 miles an hour, so I'll bump it down just a little bit. 167 degrees, and she is on her way. So that feature works as well. Well, we've enjoyed the day having ourselves a digital AI driven pilot all day. I caught one fish. It's really hot, but this thing worked like an absolute charm, and I hope you enjoyed the install video, and I hope you really like yours, and maybe think about subscribing to our channel. We'll see you next time, guys.